All right, so let's begin at the beginning. The most logical place to start is the gate of the tabernacle. Now, the gate is really amazing because there's technically three gates, if you will, in the tabernacle. There's the gate that is the widest opening for the entire tabernacle. There's another door about halfway through on the other side of the laver, which heads into the holy place. And then last, there's a very small opening that goes into the Holy of Holies. Now, the gate entrance is the widest because it is the most accessible to all people. So in both Israelite customs and in our current way that we live our life, Christ is the way unto salvation, and it's the widest opening. It welcomes all people. Sinners come close. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, the gate to salvation is wide. As you journey through and you go deeper in your relationship with the Lord, those openings get a little bit smaller, and each time asking a little bit more out of you than the original gate did. Now, for the Israelite culture, entering this gate was where all people could come in. Lots of people could come in, but in order to progress through the process, the family would come in, they would bring their sacrifice and hand that sacrifice off to the priest, and that is where the family was basically allowed to stay, was in the outer courts. You and your family would come through the gate, hand it off, and that's kind of where it ended for you. That was the process. The gate was very specifically 4 different colors of fabric or kind of textile, if you will. We don't have super specific pictures of what this would have looked like other than the explanation in Exodus. But the 4 colors that are used on the gate are red, white, blue, and purple. Now, all 4 of these have specific meanings to the Jewish people, but they also have very specific meanings to us on this side of the covenant. So Christ has come, he has been the perfect sacrifice. Those 4 colors still have significant meaning to us, as does the tabernacle. So red obviously is its meaning is attached to the blood of Christ. For us personally, the blood of Christ atoned for all. So as the Jewish people would come through, they would have to bring atonement or forgiveness sacrifices or guilt offerings that would pay for their sin or the sin of their family. Now, they had to do this basically every time they screwed up or once a year. With us, and now living in this new grace era on the other side of salvation, Christ has come and he was the perfect atonement. He was the perfect sacrifice. So that red coloring for us is a reminder that Christ's death was once and for all. That perfect blood that was shed for us is enough. It was poured on the mercy seat once and for all. And when God sees us, he sees us through Jesus-colored glasses. The white textile that was used at the gate was to reference the purification process that happens in us and for the Jewish people as they would engage in this process. Obviously, I'm bouncing back and forth here between what this meant to the Jewish people and what this meant to us. But because of Christ's death for us, we are seen pure in God's eyes. When the Jewish people would participate in this process, after their animal had been sacrificed and they've gone through the entire process, they were seen pure. Purple signified royalty. So let's talk about the Jewish people first, okay? So purple pertaining to the Jewish people, this was the color of royalty. The Jewish people were ordained and set apart by God as his bloodline. Those were his people. God, being the ultimate ruler, the ultimate king, is identifying the Jewish people as his heirs, his sons, his daughters, his bride. So that purple pertains to their spiritual classification, that God saw them as his own. He saw them as a part of the royal bloodline of Christ. So that purple is what's connected to the Jewish people. For us, we as Gentiles, or we on the other side of the cross, we've been grafted into the bloodline of Christ. So we are seen as sons, daughters, heirs to the throne. And when Christ comes back, the bride will be joined with Christ, and we will rule and reign. Purple has so many significant other cool things to it, which is also that to use purple in this application costs money, right? So God was not having them set up this kind of rickety makeshift tabernacle. It cost them money. A lot of the fittings throughout the entire tabernacle were gold, copper, brass, bronze, silver. This would have cost a lot, including the purple this purple dye came from a very specific shellfish, a very specific shell that had to be collected from one area where these particular shellfish kind of, it was their habitat. They'd all be collected and then they'd be crushed to get the purple dye out of them. So this tabernacle, which became God's home to live amongst his people, it cost something. There was something that God was asking them. I want you to give up some stuff. I want you to sacrifice some things. Not just, obviously there's sacrifices happening in the tabernacle, but in order to build this, another really cool thing about that concept, all that gold that they used, a lot of those brass fittings, all that kind of stuff that they had to make, as the Israelites left Egypt on their exodus out of Egypt, they were commanded to take the goods, the jewelry, the gold, the silver from the Egyptian people. So I love the picture of God taking what was once holding the Israelites in bondage, and they built this beautiful tabernacle that housed the presence of God, which I think I could probably do a whole video on just that and how amazing that idea is. Okay, our last color is blue. This color blue is always referencing our heavenly origins. Blue, the color of the sky. For the Jewish people, the blue was this canopy, kind of this what's beyond that sky. Heaven is above and beyond that sky, and God lives up in there somewhere. Obviously, this would have been kind of the crude explanation from the Jewish people, but our origin is of heavenly origin. So that blue is a reminder, hey, this place that you're in currently, this is not your final home. This is like that quick. You're here and then you're gone. What you do in this life heavily impacts what you will do for eternity. So that blue is a reminder as you come through those gates, hey, what you're about to embark on and what you're about to participate in has a connection to heaven, because when you crossed over into the Holy of Holies, that was a thin space. That was where heaven met earth. And for a moment, Eden would return. It was where God's presence would hover over that mercy seat, and the physical, tangible presence of God rested in that room. That blue is such an amazing reminder for us in our regular lives. Hey, this isn't it. This isn't the whole thing to be focused on. This is but a blink of an eye. This is short. It's the things that you are currently caught up in and worried about now are not the things that you're going to be caring about or worrying about for the rest of your life. You came from heavenly origins, and to heavenly origins you will return one day.